Welcome to TreeHub Business Studies. So today I'm going to lecture on or do a revision on exam preparation, right? On exam preparation, right? Exam preparation, right? So I'm going to do a revision on business operations, right? Business operations. So I'm going to answer the questions on this question paper. All right. So I'm going straight to 2.1. So 3.1. Right. So saying state any two sources of external recruitment. Right. So what is external recruitment? It is when the management is sourcing employees from outside the organization. Sourcing employees from outside the organization. That's what we call external recruitment. So let's discuss sources of external recruitment. So you can find that we have what we call private employment agencies. Right? They look for employment for other maybe people, right? We also have what we call public employment agencies. Right? They are agencies, right? We also have walk-ins. Those people who walk in looking for a job, and it happens that the job is available, right? Another source is through headhunting, whereby employees are being hunted, right? Headhunting, right? Whereby we identify, a company might identify a potential candidate for the position, and then that person is working for another organization. So the organization will approach that individual and lure him with maybe attractive packages so that he can come to work for the organization, right? We also have networking. Is also another source of external recruitment, and also media, right? Whereby they can send the job adverts on a newspaper, right? We also have what we call they can use also the organization will use professional associations, right? They can approach in the professional association. They have members, right? Who sometimes who are not working, right? So they can be given a list of members who are not working, right? Or who might be interested to work for the organization. Or they can use billboards to advertise the vacancy, right? They can use billboards to advertise the vacancy. Or they can take a temporary employee to a permanent position when the position becomes vacant, right? There are so many sources, right? Just to mention a few, we have private employment agencies, public employment agencies, walk-ins, headhunting, networking, newspapers. You can find that we have professional associations, billboards, temporary helps, right? Whereby someone is working, but he is working in a temporary position, right? So it might happen that a permanent position might arise, and then he can be given that permanent post, right? So let's go to question 2, 3.2. 3.2. Question 3.2. 3.2. 3.2. It says outline the aspect that must be included in an induction program, right? So first we want to define what is an induction. An induction, right? So an induction, it is a process of welcoming and receiving, a process of welcoming and receiving a new employee within an organization, and receiving a new employee within an organization. Right? When we introduce, sorry, when we are receiving and welcoming a new member within an organization, that's what we call induction. So it is a program. It is a program that is conducted by the organization to ensure that the new employee fits in and also becomes productive as soon as he joins the organization. So let's answer the questions. Aspects are covered, right? Aspects that are included in induction program. Aspects covered in induction program. So let's discuss aspects covered, right? The first aspect that we're going to discuss is the new employee is introduced to key people and immediate supervisor. Introduction to key people and immediate colleagues. He will be introduced to his colleagues, right? And then there is discussion of safety, regulations and rules about the organization. Safety regulations and rules are discussed. And also a tour of the organization, a tour of the premises, whereby you will be introduced to the organization, right? And also a discussion, there will be a discussion of the contract of employment, a discussion about the contract of employment. There will be a discussion about the contract of employment and conditions of service. Conditions of service. There will be a discussion, right? And also, the fact that the employee will be given information about the company, about the product, information about the product and the organization. Will be given information about the product and the organization, right? Information about the organization and the product, right? And also, you will be having a meeting with the senior management who will explain to him the vision and the mission of the organization. So we'll be having a meeting with the senior management. right, to discuss the mission and the mission of the organization, and also the vision of the organization. So you'll be informed about the decision, the vision, and the mission. And also there'll be a meeting about the condition of employment, discussions on the conditions of employment, the conditions of employment. Right. So let's move on to question 3.3. 3.3. Right. Question 3.3. 3.3. Right. So say read the scenario below and answer the questions that follows. Super catering events, SCE. Super catering events is a business that disregarded COVID-19 safety regulations in 2020. Some of the employees at SCE decided to leave the business voluntarily, right? So they disregard the COVID-19 means so they were not following the COVID-19 safety regulations, right? So to an extent that some of the employees left voluntarily, they voluntarily leave the organization. So let's move on to question 3.31. Identify the reason why employees at SCE decided to terminate their contract. The reasons why the employee decided to terminate their contract. So the reason, let's go to the reason. We are going to discuss the reason. 3.3.1. What was the reason why they decided to terminate their contract? Right? It's just they resigned from the contract. They resigned, which is resignation. They resigned from the organization because it was a voluntary. They voluntarily leave the organization. So it is a resignation. Right. So let's go to 3.32. 3.32. Right. Discuss three other reasons for the termination of a contract. And so we're going to give other reasons for the termination of contracts. Right. Sometimes, so let's discuss the reason. Right. Well, the other reason is the employer might dismiss the employee. We call it dismissal. Right? So it might also due to incapability or incapacity to work. An employee might not be able to work. The contract might also be terminated, right? Or it might be that the employer no longer have work. The employer may no longer have work. So it will be termination in the ground of what? Of the employer no longer provide work, no longer have work. The contract will be terminated. Right. And also a contract can also be terminated by mutual agreement, right, whereby the employer and the employee may decide to terminate the contract of employment. Or it might be due to insolvency, right? Insolvency, whereby the employer is no longer able to pay the employee insolvency, when the employer is no longer to pay the employee, the contract of employment will be terminated. Or it might be due to retirement, whereby the employee's years for retirement has been reached. So the contract can also be terminated due to a retirement. He went for a retirement. There's uh, a predetermined age for retirement, right? So these are the other reasons why a contract can be terminated. It might be due to dismissal, whereby the employer would dismiss the employee, or incapacity to work. The employee is no longer capable of working. The employer may no longer have work. It might be due to mutual agreement, whereby the employer and the employee would decide to end the contract of employment, or due to insolvency, whereby the employer is no longer able to pay the employee, and terminate retirement, whereby the employee has reached a predetermined age for retirement, right? The contract will be terminated, And also it might be also due to death, right? Death, whereby maybe the employee died, right? So eventually the contract will be terminated because of what? Of death, right? Let's move on to another question. Another question, which is 3.4. Explain the legal, explain the legal requirements of an employment contract. 4 marks. Legal requirements of an employment contract. Right. So let's go to 3.4. Legal requirements of an employment contract. Legal requirements of an employment contract. 3.4, right? So we're going to explain the legal requirements, right, for an employment contract, right? So let's discuss the legal requirements for an employment contract, right? So you can find that the employer and the employee must agree, right, to any changes to the contract. They are supposed to agree, right? They are supposed to agree, right? Agreement between the employer and the employee. There should be an agreement between the employer and the employee. If maybe there is any change to the contract, any changes, right? There should be a mutual agreement, right? And also you can find that aspects of employment contract can be renegotiated during the course of employment, right? The aspects can be renegotiated, can be renegotiated. They can negotiate the what? They can be renegotiated during the course of the what? The contract. Right, they can renegotiate it during employment. Right. Right. And then number 3, The employer and the employee must both sign the contract. The employer and the employee must both sign the contract. Must both sign the contract. They must both sign the contract of employment. They must both sign the contract, right? And also, the contract should include the code of conduct. The contract should include the code of conduct. Should include the code of conduct. How are they going to conduct themselves, right? And also the code of ethics. The code of ethics. How are they going to conduct themselves? How are they going to behave within an organization? What are the expected behavior within the organization? Right. The employer must also explain the terms of employment. The employer must explain the terms and conditions of employment. The employer must explain the terms and conditions to the employee. Right? They are supposed to explain the terms of the conduct of employment. Supposed to explain the terms and the conditions to the employee. Right? And also the duties and responsibilities of the employee must be stipulated clearly. The rules, the duties and responsibilities of the employee must be explained clearly. Supposed to be clear. Must be explained clearly. Must be explained clearly. Right. Let's move on to question 3.5. 3.5. Right. Identify the quality concept applied by STEM manufacturers in each statement below. Right. So let's look at the first statement. 3.5. One, STEM manufacturers ensure that all departments work together towards achieving the same quality standards. So here, it's 3.5. 3.51. All right. So here, you're emphasizing on quality performance. And then 3.51, part 2, the business developed new methods and techniques to improve the quality of their products. That's quality management. That's quality management. Right. The business develop new methods and techniques, so they are managing the quality. They are managing the quality. Quality, quality management. Quality management. Right. That's quality management. Quality management. And then let's go to question 3.6. 3.6. Right. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Right. Tracking company TTC is a department that handles business-related aspects like funding and budgets. Another department is responsible for developing a brand, log, website, and social media advertising. Right. The question is, identify two business functions applicable to TTC. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. So use the table below as a guide to answer question 3.6. Right. So the question says identify two business functions and you are supposed to motivate your answer. Right. So the two business functions include the first one. The first one, whereby saying the department handles business-related aspects like funding and budgets. So the function is what you call the financial department. The financial department. 3.6. The function that handles finance funding is the what? The finance function and budget. The finance function. So we can call it department. Department. Right. It handles finance. It handles finance. Right. So motivation. Right. The first one, motivation. Right. How are we going to motivate? Because it handles the business. It handles the business related aspects like funding and budgeting. It handles business related handles business related aspects like funding and budgeting. Right. And then number 2, right. Let's go to the scenario. Another department is responsible for developing a brand, logo, website, and social media advertising. So this department is what you call marketing. Marketing department. Marketing. Marketing. That's a marketing function. Marketing function. That's marketing function, right? Because it uh, deals with what? With developing. It uh, deals with developing. It deals with developing websites, logos, social media, advertising, brand, and social media, advertising. Right. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your time. We'll meet again. We are still on revision for September exams. Revision for September exams. So don't forget to subscribe and please keep watching the channel. There are more there are more activities that are going to be posted on the portal. So stay blessed. Have a good day.